The Asian flu of 1957 and the Hong Kong flu of 1968 both originated in China and left a trail of about 3 million deaths worldwide. The 1997 bird flu was traced to chickens in China. The SARS epidemic in 2003 was traced to Chinese food markets. This is the reason Chinese scientists take such great risks to study viruses, because they're a big problem over there. Our next guest is a virus hunter. He traveled around the world visiting 20 countries, including China. It's his job to trap animals in the wild and study them in laboratories. Dr. C.J. Peters was a CDC chief for 8 years and is here to shed light on the potential origins of the coronavirus. So, C.J., throughout your travels and knowing what you know about bats and China and SARS, what do you think about this new report that this may have occurred through an accidental leak in a laboratory?
Well, I think the applicable word is may. I mean, if you just took this virus, and U.S. virologists have done this, and determined the genetic sequence, you'd say, aha, it's a bat virus. It's related to SARS. And you'd also look at it and say, it doesn't have any funny sequences inserted in it, so it's probably not a bioengineered virus at all. It's a natural virus. Now, whether that virus came from a bat in the Wuhan market directly into somebody or via a pig or something, that you can't tell. It may have come from that, or it may have come from a laboratory in China.
So when you were studying these viruses and you were traveling throughout the world hunting these viruses, what was the most important thing you looked for? And when you did discover that, did you ever get pressure from any of these governments, like the Chinese government is handing down on scientists? Because some of these scientists, they've disappeared.
Well, fortunately, I never disappeared, but I've usually been attracted by finding a person with an unusual clinical syndrome or a very serious clinical syndrome, taking samples from that person and perhaps from rodents and mosquitoes also, because they're often carriers of these viruses. And you take those samples and take them back to the lab and identify them, find out whether they're a new virus, if they're a new virus, whether they've got a cousin that you know. And then from there, you go back to the country. And usually it's good form to go back to the country that invited you. And they're often reluctant to let you publish this. They'd often rather that you just told them and didn't tell anybody else. But I've always been able to convince them to let me publish. So we make it well known to other virologists.
Right. I mean, you got to get the word out there to the scientific community. Absolutely. So it's your expertise. This could have come, a bat bit a pig that was sold in the wet market, something like that, or the bat in the wet market, or it was being studied at this lab and then contaminated a lab worker, and then he then infected people in Wuhan province. Are you leaning in one way or the other, or are you waiting to see how it plays out?
I think the only way you're going to be able to tell is to look at the lab notebooks in China, if you speak Chinese, or if you can get a translator, because there's no way you're going to be able to tell from the virus.
Yeah, well, I don't think those notebooks exist anymore. It's just a hunch. From the Bret Baier reporting that we talked about, those were destroyed and those notebooks were manipulated, but we'll see what we can find out. Dr. Peters, thank you very much. The Biden sexual assault allegation is turning into a media scandal. A very disturbing report on that later. Also, Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan getting rocked by protests for her stay-at-home order. Now she's being sued. We'll tell you what's going on.